Hey guys, this is NoFragLimit here. I will be commenting today another game of Warhammer 40k Conquest. This will be a second round of Gardis Unearthed Online Competitive League tournament, and it will be a duel between Filip Sztal, also known as Tyranids, versus Robert J.Shields, also known as Two Shields. So, as you see already, Filip decided to play a new Warlord of Tyranids, Magus paired up with the Blazing Zone Trap. Synapse and Robert will be playing Nazdreg. Now, this is an interesting pair to see the Blazing Zone Trap here in play. I don't really see that Synapse very often. Its reaction basically allows to deal 1 damage whenever the combat phase starts or to the target unit on the planet. If the planet is infested, it allows you to deal 2 damage. So potentially it works like a Ragnar. I'm really interested to see how that's going to go. The first planet allows you to rally the cards in search for chip units. The second one to look in opponent's hand. The third one to deal some damage on adjacent planet and HQ. The fourth one is moving the units between the planets. And the fifth one is moving the damage. So quite interesting. The first deployment from Shields is the Goliath Refugee. 1 cost support, adding the number of HP with the higher cost of the unity control. So really good card for Nazdreg. And the first deployment for Filip, it's the Reaper Swarm, 0 cost limited unit on plan number 5. It's a really good move to control that economy here, and without giving any kind of tells where he's about to deploy the rest of his army. So really good choices. For the start is the Robert's initiative, so he will need to decide about his deployment. I don't really know his deck, but as I look on the planets, there are 3 red icons, and as I am suspecting Orcs will try to snowball the first planet and try to get that victory condition secured. And this is the solid deployment Ramshackle track, 7-3 units, really aggressive to command icon for 5 resources. So definitely a strong deployment on plan number 1 indicates that Robert will try to win and secure that victory condition. Filip decides to trigger the reaction of the Warlord and attach the face down card to that unit, so potentially it could be a deployment after the Ramshackle track die, which will definitely not going to be easy task. The track itself gains 4 HP whenever the opponent have the initiative. And this is a great deployment, Imperial Bastion in the first round, as I already experienced by myself. This signature support, it's a great early start, allows him to trigger the ability of the Warlord twice, and also allows him to do the combat action and deal 1 damage to any unit with the face down card attached. That's a really good opening hand so far. I'm not sure about the rest, but this support itself will definitely do a lot in this game. However, you could say the Goliath Refugee is also a very important support for Nazdreg, so they kind of both had some of the cards they probably were hoping for. Two Shields decide to pass with 1 resource left. I guess he don't have any traders or void pirates, so he cannot really deploy anything else. Filip still thinks about his deployment. He has 5 resources left, so I could expect to see anything to go potentially on planet number 3 to gain even more economy, but not. He decided to pass. This is really interesting. So he kept all those resources for later. I wonder if he have any tricks in his hand and try maybe to do something with that Ramshackle track. I guess the only option is to route it or send it back to HQ somehow. However, there are no units on the planet number 1, so I don't really see how he could do this. The player decides where to commit their Warlords. I could really think of the Nazdreg going for planet number 5 to negate that income with the cards, and Tyranids potentially to go for plan number 1, plan number 3, or the synapse on plan number 4, just to gain as much as economy as possible, really. So I think they both made a decision. Magus, however, decides to negate that income for plan number 1, so he goes for the ramshackle track. Very dangerous move. If that Nazdreg would land over there as well, that could be strike for 7, and that would probably mean the Warlord will be almost bloodied. And even more interesting, the Synapse go for plan number 2 with only 1 card of income. I think this is the purest choice to that commit, so I wonder why he didn't choose the plan number 4 to gain the additional resource, but it's not about me to decide. Now, first commitment from the planet is to add 1 resource or 1 card to each player, and Filip decides to draw automatically, and he does not really telling anything to Robert, so he decides to draw as well. That's interesting because according to the rules, the player who commit the Warlord is deciding for both separately, and the commitment of Nazdreg from Robert, it allows him to gain 1 resource. So from that commitment, Filip gains 1 card, Robert gains 1 card and 1 resource, and now the ramshackle track indicates that the initiative is on the opponent's side, so he actually gains 4 HP to his stats, so it's 7-7, really powerful in this moment. And guys deciding to play the commitment, so it would be a 2 cards to 1 resource for Tyranids and 2 cards for Orcs. Now, the way it looks that 2 Shields have plenty of cards, not really a lot of resources, and Filip, he have actually 6 resources, 7 cards, so plenty of cash and cards to play with. I wonder still what sits in his hands, how he potentially would like to resolve that first planet, if this will be a pure retreat or there isn't anything that he could surprise it with. Let's see. Players go to the battle at that moment. Will we see the support being triggered straight away? Filip is asking whose action first. Obviously the Warlord is present, so the initiative, it's automatically passed to him. As he have initiative, that will be his action first, so I guess he would like to trigger the support, but not. He decides to play a copy of Overrun, and this allows him to target an army unit, and you may sacrifice the unit to rout it. So this is the answer for that mystery. He decides to tap the army unit and then sacrifice it to rout the ramshackle track. So it's a great move. That was a trick which was behind his mind all this time, and as I didn't knew before, this card is really it's not limited to the same planet. You can really tap the unit on any planet. So wow, great move from Tyranids really. And copy of Backlash, it been kind of moved on a table and discarded. So I guess that 2 Shields would like to keep the ramshackle track in place to cancel that effect. Now, nice. So, okay. I'm just writing down in the chat window that really 2 Shields, he didn't pay for that backlash. I don't know if I'm supposed to do it. Really, I should be just commenting the game not really interrupting it, but that additional resource could really decide about the battle. He could potentially use it to trigger like anything like brutal canning, or I don't know. 2 resources should be really reduced to 1. So I wonder if that disconnection have anything to do with it, as I saw for the moment that the Shields was really disconnected. Maybe he paid in this moment, but we really didn't see the effect. Now the Warlord decides to retreat in that situation, and he taps the support to deal 1 damage to Ramshackle Track, which makes perfectly sense. And Robert can trigger the planet ability now, which allows him to look for 6 cards in order to put the unit with cost 3 or less on that planet. It's a great effect, and if he does have any unit with the cost 3, that will be basically a free deployment and a very good start for Orcs indeed. And yes, he did found a card, and this will be the Snakebite Tark. Really good. So 2 strong units on plan number 1 will retreat to HQ, and this is a good first round so far for Nazdreg. He will have 6 resources after this round, potentially. Planet ability of plan number 5 will allow him to move 1 damage. I've just slightly adjusted my screen right now to make it more visible, which kind of gives a more nicest effect. So okay, so Philip actually asked by himself, did he pay for backlash? 2 Shields says yes, and now I'm feeling free to add my comment. I think he was disconnected, and we still see 2 resources. So the best, if you have any kind of situation like that, the best is to just bring it down to 0 and add as many as it should be. So it should be 1. I recommend for him to -2 and add 1 again to make it even, so everyone will have the same view on the amount of resources left on the Shield's side. So this was sorted, it worked already, so we can go back to battle, and it's the Nazdreg initiative. So I wonder if the Orcs have any actions. It looks like not, so he decides to attack with his Warlord straight away, not even waiting for the enemy's response, if there are any actions or not. And there's no shields used, so that Reaper Swarm will go to discard. And so that's it, there are no actions after the attack. So I guess the shields would be able to trigger the battle ability, which allows him to move 1 damage from a unit to another. If that unit is destroyed by this effect, he can gain 1 resource. Now, he cannot really kill anything with moving that 1 damage from Ramshackle Track, but he definitely can increase the damage, and he decides to move it on a Warlord, which is a really good choice. I think the Magus Harrod needs to be killed, or at least that his ability needs to be reduced as early as possible. And from my experience already, I know that the Nazdreg is also a really good Warlord killer, especially with that brutal ability on his unit. His strikes could be really powerful, so yeah, why not? So the first round have been finished, both players go back to HQ, they draw the cards and the resources. Now the initiative is on the side of the Tyranid player, and the 5th planet again allows them to the commit allows him to reveal the card after landing, but the 5th planet ability allows to resolve the command struggle on the non-first planet, switching the control of the enemy units for the command purpose. So this is a really good economy gaining planet, I would say. This planet ability allows you to restore the points after the enemy have a great advantage on the command. Really kind of focused decks like Ragnar or Nazdreg really gaining from that planet quite a lot. So it could be very useful for Robert itself. Let's see. The Tyranid player will deploy first. There's nothing in play. Again, he decides to put the Reaper Swarm second copy on planet number 5 again. So, not the plan number 4, no, it's the plan number 5. It's interesting. And very quick response from Robert is the Rogue Trader on the same planet, so he does not allow him to gain the advantage. I wonder if the Filip would like to trigger the ability of the Warlord. It's especially useful with those very small units. He have actually a 9 card in his hand, so I guess he would have some cheap units to attach to this card, but no, he decides to play the Goliath Rockgrinder on planet number 1. So with his initiative, he decides to use that advantage, and this unit is really great. Whenever it's on the infested planet, it gains 2 HP, and also whenever it's destroyed a unit, it gains it allows you to spawn amount of tokens, termagants, equal the enemy HP. So could be a really great turning moment. Now initiative is on the Filip's side, so he still have free resources, so I suspect he could really deploy another unit here. So Robert will need to really think if he's able to turn it around. He decides to play it Enraged Orc 0-5 to coast unit with the brutal ability. So now, is he going to stand there? Does he think he have any chances to play that plan number 1? He does have the Clearhead Refugee support. Ramshackle potentially allows him to add 5 HP to this unit, so this could be a powerful orc, really. But first the damage would need to be added to him. I guess the Rockgrinder will definitely try to destroy the Ramshackle track first, so Robert decides to move that Enraged Orc on planet number 5, and Filip for the first time is using the ability of the Warlord and adding a face down card to this. Now Shields is selecting his trader. I wonder if he's indicating, okay, yes, so he's asking did the Filip forgot to use the ability on the Rogue Trader. I wouldn't be really asking for it. The Rogue Trader is a preferred, really easy target to kill and to get that free deployment, so he's kind of being very nice to Filip to allow him to trigger it again if he wants. With the 2 resources, I'm not sure if he's able to deploy any other unit, and that's why he would like to get that face down card on the Rogue Trader instead. But let's see. Yes, so Filip decides to move that card. So he moved the card from unit to unit. That's funny. That's okay. I guess both players are alright with that. Okay, so the new unique card being deployed and moved back in hand, he decides to change his option for Emergent Cultists, and the Cultists are free to unit with 2 cost, and they're gaining 1 HP whenever they are on an infested planet. But it's a great deployment because it allows to exhaust a support, and to exhaust that Clearhead Refugee will be a very important play. Now all this additional HP for Robert won't be really able to gain, so that's a good decision, really. It's a better option than the previous deployments he tried to put, which is great. I guess with 2 resources, maybe another copy of Snakeback Tark, 7 cards. Let's see, or Enraged Orc again. I guess at some point. Okay, so it's another copy of Rogue Trader. Thinking about how he decides to go, where he decides to go with that Nazdreg. I don't really see how he will move and decides to drop that Ramshackle Track and Snakeback Tark on the planet number 5. That will be a waste. He decides to put the Rogue Trader on planet number 2, and I think that's where he's going as well, with his Warlord, and this will bring him down to 1 resource still. Yeah, so for the second time we can actually trigger the Warlord ability, and this is another copy of the card attached to the Rogue Trader, so it's a good news for the Tyranid player. But okay, Robert decides to pass, so he have no more resources, and Filip, he placed the Imgro Factor attachment on that Rockgrinder, and now the fact that the Rockgrinder can really attach the any add-ons like Wargear is very unique, and unconventional, especially for the vehicles. I think this card should be really, limited, considering that you have 2 icons, 5 cost, a great effect with this additional 2 HP, and it's a Termagant spawner. I really think we should think in the community about no Wargear attachment here. But this is the topic for another discussion. For now, this unit have no limitations whatsoever, so you can really boost it up with that Imgro, and you could imagine if you have tons of the resources, that will be just spawning, Termagant spawning unit. Now, I could really think about that, build it on the Swarm Lord. Imagine how many tokens you could generate during the battle, and if you have any hive mind units, that would really give you a nice boost. So yeah, the guys, they don't have any more actions, so Shields already decided where he's going to land, and I'm suspecting that's going to be planet number 2 to protect that income, 3 resources. The Tyranid player will think again in this moment. I would probably choose to go for planet number 5 with the Warlord, and planet number 4 with the Synapse, or the other way around. You could actually go with the Synapse or planet number 5 and try to trigger its ability to kill that Rogue Trader, and eventually even to get the deployments and just gain the 2 cards from the landing on planet number 2. And that would be a great economy if he would get the advantage on all those 4 planets. So yeah, so it's planet number 2 for Tyranid Warlord, and the Nazdreg decides to go for planet number 3. Those commitments are really unusual. I wonder how they decided to play, and the Synapse going on planet number 1 is even more crazy. Okay. Commitment of the planet number 2 allows him to deal 1 damage to the unit on this planet, so potentially that Rogue Trader will go away if there are no shields used to defend it, but I don't see why it should be. This card need to be revealed now, and as the two shields have one resource and Filip have no resources, he cannot really deploy it, so it's a kind of waste. The commit of the planet number 3 for Nazdreg allows him to add the one fate icon on the unit, and he decides to protect the ramshackle track, which makes a perfect sense. And yeah, so let's look on the command. The Tyranids, they are actually gaining 1 card and 2 resources, so this commitment wasn't really great for them. However, the orcs, they're not gaining many more. They're getting again the cards and only 1 resource, so it's a lot of cards for both of them, really. I wonder if the Tyranid player could really put any danger for that Nazdreg on the planet number 3. They need to do the planet number 2 income added manually again. It's not the first time when I see this planet really playing up. I wonder what's causing that particular planet to being unable to select it after first round. So 2 shields indicating that he have absolutely no actions on planet number 1, and it's his. So now Filip can decide and name the unit to look at the hand of the opponent to be able to discard it, but he needs to describe the card first, so he's thinking about his choice. And he says a unit from Warlord Squad, so I presume that's a Flash Gits. He may know Gits, but he probably don't remember the name. Let's see how that's gonna go. So the hands made invisible for the Filip, unfortunately, not for myself. So I'm still unable to look at that hand, which is really sad. I need to think about the option which I saw in Hive Tyrant videos, where the players are making the hands visible for the commentator, and I need to really contact him and find out how he's doing it, because it's much harder to comment the game without the hands being visible. It's also less exciting, I guess. I promise to sort it out in my next video. This problem will be resolved for the future reference. But let's go to planet number 1. So the Filip looked at the hand of his opponent. The planet ability says to gain 1 resource if there is a chosen card with the name present in the hand. So I guess it was. So it's not the discard, it's the +1 resource. And now the Tyranids, they actually have 3 resources, so some cash on their side. They still cannot mark the planet number 2, so he just kind of allows himself to move the arrow and deal 1 damage to the unit on the adjacent planet, which will be a Nazdreg itself. Makes a perfect point. Really, there's no reason to... Well, he could potentially try to damage that snakebite tag and try to strike him for free to kill that unit eventually, but he's not risking any shields, and he's not risking leaving that snakebite tag with half damage and arming for later stage of the game. So he decides to move and do that ping for Nazdreg. Makes perfect sense. The battle goes for planet number 3 now, and both players have no actions, so he will probably take a Nazdreg to strike, and he will try to kill off that unit. Now, I presume this is a perfect time for shields to be used, and he decides to shield with regeneration. It's interesting, really, that regeneration. It would be so useful to to be added on the Rockgrinder or even on that unit. So wow, didn't expect to see that shield. 1 damage goes through, and now Nazdreg decides to shield 2 out of 3 of that damage, so he leaves himself on 2 damages. That's okay. The players have no actions, so they will go ready, and I now suspect, yes, the Tyranid unit will go back to HQ. And yeah, so now Shields can decide to swap the location of 2 army units between a planet. I wonder if he would like to move that enraged orc and swap it around with the snakebite tag, for example. Let's see. I tried to mark with the arrow that they forgot to drag along that card with the ramshackle track, adjusted upside down. They seems to do not see this right now. He's still probably thinking about the planet commitment, the planet ability triggered, so let's wait. And he decides to do not trigger at all. Okay, so he goes back with Warlord to HQ. He has no more actions. Surprisingly, the Filip does have no actions as well, so he's asking to end the round. He forgot about the support being triggered to kill of that rogue trader. That's interesting. It's a waste, really. So he will even the command on planet number 4 still. Okay. Goes all back to round number 3. The ability of planet number 5 now allows to trigger the battle on non-first planets. So last 2 planets, they really have a lot of influence on the battle, and I always like to see them 2 in the end, because they actually can change a lot. Now this rogue trader is still present, which shouldn't be in fact. So let's see. Both players, they have 1 icon. The Filip have 1 from each color. Robert is missing the green one. He decides to play another copy of Enraged Orc on planet number 1, and this time the Warlord reaction from Tyranids is being triggered immediately. And Filip responds with the 3rd copy of Reaper Swarm, deployed on planet number 5. So yeah, a lot of cheap deployments so far from Tyranids. Only that Rockgrinder imposes some danger in battle. Anything else is really kind of flat. And the same response as in the previous round. Rogue Trader goes to that same planet to equal the command for the 2nd time. Possibly we could see Magus Harriet triggering his reaction again, and it's so indeed. So upside down card to attach to that Rogue Trader. Definitely this time I think he will remember about his support, or at least I hope, because this gives him a massive advantage. He should be really have them both killed by the end of this turn. And okay, so the fate icon have been preserved from the last round. Yes, now as Filip really kind of asked, yeah, so this should be really removed. There's something wrong going on, really. Okay, we just need to remember about that. So the next deployment from Tyranid player, it will be a rain of mycetic spores on the last planet, so economy attachment for that planet could really work. There will be no victory condition, at least for the next 3 planets, so he could gain potentially an income here. I guess this planet will be good to kind of being targeted with that Blazing Zone Drop, as we haven't seen any effects from it so far. I wonder if he ever will land with that synapse on the planet with the enemy units to be able to really start and use this ability. Waiting for another deployment from Robert now. Okay, they finally noticed about that card not being dragged from HQ to Ramshackle Track, and another deployment, and this is the third copy on Enraged Orc from Robert. So 3 brutal cheap units with the Nazdreg. It kind of allow him to protect the planets wherever he don't want to go. 5 HP, really powerful units. With that Clear Hat Refugee, it could be really boosted to 10 as the Ramshackle is present. It was another disconnect for the second, but it's quickly being restored. God bless for all those people from Octagon who finally decided to fix that bug. It was really tormenting us for at least a few months, and I hope that everyone remembers the final of the last tournament between Apoka and Piotrek, when Piotrek have been disconnected and the whole game just went to hell. As the result, I think Piotrek already decided to step back, and he's not an active player in the community, which is a shame to lose such a talented player. But his connection and the internet kind of site is really weak, so he had those disconnections very often, and I'm not really surprised that the irritation goes into him. Then let's go back to the game. 2 shields already decided, Filip as well, so they now going for the commitments. Nazdreg already made a quick decision. I'm thinking if he would like to try to go for one of those planets with the rogue traders, and in his place I would try to go for plan number 5 and try to resolve, as the effect after winning the plan number 5, he could resolve the battle on non-first planet, which could be potentially plan number 2 or plan number 3, and trigger its effect as well. Now let's see, Tyranids, they have a difficult choice to make, I think. Planet number 1, yes, that's an obvious choice, but then Nazdreg also actually decided to go for planet number 1 as well, so yeah, it will be finally some battle. Blazing Zone Drop landed on planet number 5, so he will gain the command over there. So how does it look? Only 1 planet for Tyranid player and 3 planets for orcs, so really a great income. But let's resolve first the commit ability, which is still 1 damage to enemy unit on the planet. So Robert decides to deal 1 damage to the cultist unit, with 1 damage already being present. If there is no shields, he could potentially die here, so let's see if Filip have any shields in hand. He used a really good one, which is the regeneration. I wonder if he drew recently any others. He's thinking of it, so definitely there is one there. I guess it must be precious, as he's really hesitating here to... Well, yes, of course you need to use it if you really want to preserve it. It's up to you. He's thinking, asking to use his ability. Okay, so he's kind of thinking about himself. So he used another copy of regeneration to shield this. Wow, so that's 2 copies being scrapped already to protect. Wow, okay. He didn't decide to put that 1 damage on Enraged Orc. It kind of makes sense. He don't want to give any attacks. And both players now, they go for to resolve the command struggle. It's the 1 card and 1 resource for the Filip, and 3 cards, 3 resources for Robert. So really nice income in this round for orcs. They actually restoring some ground in the economy, which is really beautiful to see. And I know if the Nazdreg have so many cards, he could really do some damage here. Now he decides to trigger the Clear Hat Refugee for the first time, and he will add an additional 5 HP to this enraged orc. And yeah, as long as the Tyranid player doesn't have that difficult event which allows him to exhaust and rout the enemy unit, I don't really see how else that could go. He do have 7 resources, however, in his pool, so he could boost that Rockgrinder to really awesome amount of the HP and try to survive and kill it off in the next 2 rounds. So it could potentially go wrong for both sides. So let's see. Shields doesn't have any actions, so it will be up to Filip now to do some, but he doesn't have anything as well. So I guess it's a first strike for Nazdreg to decide and do the opening blow for that battle. I guess he'll try to trigger, to target those cultists to get rid of them. Indeed, he decides to go for that move. So the previous shield kind of losing the sense. Now he's trying to shield 1. Kind of wondered. This plant is not infested, so it won't really give him anything. Yeah, okay, he noticed, so he's taking it back. He decides to yeah. So the cultists are dead. Okay. All right. So. Okay. So now the counterattack from the Tyranid Warlord. I guess he will decide to target the Nazdreg itself to add some damage to it. So. Yeah, indeed. I wonder if any copies of Brutal Canning are in his hand, and if he could potentially use it to move some damage from Nazdreg to Enraged Orc to strike. Not really sure. He could really go even 2 copies of Brutal Canning. That would be nice. Okay, 2 shields is definitely thinking about this, so he may have some shields here to use, which he don't really like to scrap straight away. So it kind of looks like a difficult decision. But he's done, he added this damage, so now both players are done. He strikes for 0 with the Enraged Orc, and he make all of the units ready. And now it's down to orcs to decide if they would like to hang around and try to fight off or not. The Tyranid goes skip a turn, and he's really already stating that he will want to stay. Now 2 shields have still he should be the first to decide, but now okay. So it's kind of a powerful statement from the Tyranid player that says he is really not afraid of that Enraged Orc. 2 shields. He's still thinking about it. He decides to move his Warlord, but he kept the Enraged Orc behind, which is a good move, because whatever attack now will definitely make it bad for the Tyranid player. Now, I wonder how that could go. So the first 2 attack will add 5 damage unless the Filip will decide to add some attack from the ingrow factor to that vehicle. It won't really kill the enraged orcs. So he have 10 HP, and I guess he will strike and try to kill off that Rockgrinder with potentially with 2 blows. The first one will be only for 2, as I guess the Warlord will strike first, but then he will need to add to another 3 from the Ramshackle track, and he will be sitting at 5, and it will be very dangerous. So let's see. Filip is asking for actions, so 2 shields have none. No, this is the first strike for 0, as the initiative is on the orc player. He needs to strike for nothing, so that's really interesting now. Yeah. Okay, so Filip have no actions. He will now attack for 2. And it goes to the next blow for the Rockgrinder to the side. Now I'm thinking, if there's a point of increasing that attack value to try to spawn 5 Termagants, it could really work. I mean, are you ready to pay 1 resource for 1 Termagant? Not sure. He decides to pay 4 to give him 8 attack. Wow, so he goes full force. So the attack will be 11, which in total would make 13 damage. I guess there is no even free shielder option in that case to defend that enraged orc. So Filip really went all in, and he wants to get those 5 Termagants, 5 copies to spawn them in. So great move. It will be very interesting now. So 2 shields tried to use the Cyborg body to shield for free. However, he only added 7 damage, so he's forgetting about that the enraged orc had 2 already, and the attack was for 11. There is no option that he could defend himself here, so that will not work. So yeah, he moved it quickly back, and unfortunately that enraged orc will need to leave the game, which is really sad. He had a free shielder on his hand and it didn't work. And as he leaves the play, he also leaves the card face down behind, so potentially the Filip could gain 5 Termagants and a free unit as well. Free unit, the surprise unit. So yes, is the signature squad Ginster hybrids for 2 resources, which he pays for. And now he will add those tokens on the planet, and that will make it really nice. It's only 2. I wonder why. Okay. So I'm pretty sure that was the mistake, as the printed HP value of that unit was 5. Yeah, so now the 2 shields. Notice by itself that Filip's supposed to put the 5 tokens, not 2, and yeah, he now will probably add another 3, which makes it 5. That's the correct play. There they are. So now it's a lovely bunch. And he also decides to trigger the support, at least he remembered this time, and he will use it to try to kill off one of those rogue traders. So 2 shields will need to now try and defend it. He also forgot about the blazing zone drop effect. So yeah, wow, a lot of mistakes the Trinity players. And shield has been used, Squig and Bombin for Ooh, okay, that's interesting. He didn't kept it to kill off that support, but probably because of the mistakes that Tyranid player made so far, it doesn't really do much. However, he decides to trigger the ability, which hits the Snakebite Tack and the Nazdreg in HQ for 1. So that's another planet 1 for Filip. It will be the second red icon now. And all that horde, or really a swarm, goes back to HQ, and that's the round. I'm really surprised that he does see that synapse, right? He really knows what he's doing, so he could kill another rogue trader here. I'm really surprised to, that he doesn't remember about it. It's such a unique synapse, really. I haven't seen it in play, and finally when I have a chance to really look at it, it's not being triggered, so I'm a little bit disappointed here. But let's go to round number 4. The initiative is with the Tyranid player again. Is it? I thought it. Okay, I thought it was with the Tyranid player already in the previous round, so it's kind of strange. Or it's just me being wrong here. Okay, and so I guess it will be the Filip to make a first move here. And what it will be, okay, contaminated convoys, so more tokens possibly generated with any deployment. He's able to infest the planet and gain additional token for each and every deployment, so that card is really great in the early stage of the game. And this was the reaction, so now the action will be to use the Clog It With Corpses to sacrifice the 1 Termagant and get rid of that Clear Hat Refugee, which is a really great move. So that will be a big loss for our Orc player to lose that support. Potentially will cost them a lot. So yeah. Still 4 Termagants left, so that wouldn't really cost him much. It's a great card, it's a great card, especially with that Rockgrinder who's able to really generate plenty of them for any big kill. You could possibly get rid of the strongest supports. I wonder if any players using a really expensive support with 3 or 4 cost would found it nice. Probably not. So waiting for another deployment from 2 Shields, and it will be a big shooter battle wagon, so wow, for 6 cost elite unit. After it dies, it generates 4 Snotlings, so yeah. And it goes for planet number 1. I mean, 2 Shields have only a red icon and blue icon, so I guess he will need to win the planet number 1 and planet number 2. That deployment obviously triggers the reaction of an event which allows Tyranid player to infest that planet and place a Termagant token as the reaction of the deployment. So possibly that Synapse could come here and deal some double damage, possibly on the Ramshackle track, and support being triggered. That could really finish it off, even with the 1 shield. So yeah, now he's thinking about that, and as he's thinking about this, he's probably moving his Synapse back as well. Wow. Again, so and probably he realized his mistake as well in that moment, so yeah. So he actually made a comment that he's supposed to kill him with the synapse effect, and Two Shields is so kind again to just take the Rogue Trader off the table, but Filip tells him that he's supposed to put it back. It's his mistake and he should pay for it and the price. So the Rogue Trader stays behind. So really nice from both players actually. Some fair play here. Really nice. Skiting home against the infesting unit for 2 cost will be deployed on planet number 3. So infestation token will be placed there. I guess another deployment from orcs wouldn't really harm it now, as the planet is already infested. But as you see, now the 3 planets out of 4 are infested already. So now kind of the pollution or the disease in the galaxy is spread around, and that attachment on the last planet, if both infestation will hold on planet number 3 and planet number 4, will finally allow our Tyranid player to gain some additional resources and gain the advantage. Now the cyborg body, the signature attachment will be placed on one of the units, and I guess this will be on the one of the copies of Enraged Orc to make it out of 10. And nicely being played, Digestion Pool allows to reduce the cost of any unit deployed on infested planet by 2. Makes a perfect sense, and the good moment for that is to have this support right now. So yeah. Not only the Tyranid player will start gaining some resources from the attachment on planet number 5, he also deployed the Gene Stealer Harvesters to make even more gain from planet number 3. And as there are no units there to kind of put them in danger, there will be only Nazdreg who will be able to fight it off. Now, I hope the Tyranid player remembers about the planet ability of planet number 1, which allows the Nazdreg to switch the location of 2 units, because as long as that Rogue Trader is alive, he could potentially swap the position with the Ramshackle Track, or even worse, the Battle Wagon, and that Battle Wagon itself coming there will basically doom all of those 3 units, really. So let's see. Copy of Regeneration, I think the last one to play it on the Rockgrinder. So now he is 5/7 with possibility of upgrading his stats from the Imgrowth factor. So really sick build right now. There are no actions in deployment, so if both players pass their turn, the Nazdreg decides to choose his deployment, and I think he's going to go for planet number 4 or planet number 3. I would personally choose the planet number 3 and try to use that ability of planet number 1 to kill of them, but instead he chooses the easiest option, which is planet number 4, and Tyranids decide to put defense and make a mark on the planet number 2 to oppose those 2 enraged orcs. I guess this will be a something. I think what he wants to do is to kill another enraged orc with that Rockgrinder, so to possibly to gain another lot of termagant spawn. And the Synapse goes for planet number 5, opposing the Nazdreg. So now the commit ability, guys, they seems to forgetting about the commits right now. They selecting already the command straggle results. So let it be. Again, I'm only commenting the game. So the Filip gains 4 cards and 2 resources, and Robert gains 2 cards and 3 resources. So quite a lot of cards still in both players' hands. 11 for Orc, and now they decide about the commit. A little bit late, but okay. So that's one card for commit ability from Tyranid player, and it will be a battle on planet number 1. As the initiative is on Filip's side, this Termagant will be able to strike. And potentially, if Robert wouldn't have any shields, the Termagant and the support effect could kill off that Ramshackle. That will be sick. And funny to see in the same time. However, as you see, the Orc player decides to strike first instead, and he kills off the Termagant. I am quite surprised that both players, they really agreed with this kind of course of action, but okay. He decides to switch around the position of 2 units as the effect of the first planet, and he will move the Ramshackle track on to planet number 2 against the enemy Warlord. So yeah, that Ramshackle track will gain 4 HP on that battle because of the initiative of the opponent, and the Warlord being present decides about that. So potentially Ramshackle track and the Enraged Orc are 7 and 10 HP. Really dangerous kind of setup here. Now the Ramshackle track being killed by the Rockgrinder, it generates 3 tokens. Obviously the Enraged Orc would generate 5, but as it's being boosted with the 41 markers, he really added quite a lot there. So yeah, 7/7. It's a strong unit. I wonder if Filip will decide to retreat that Warlord to avoid being bloodied. Well, he may have 2 shields in his hand, but is he decide to keep it or not? The Ramshackle track have now 7 HP and possibility of healing that with the regeneration as well. So he could add a little bit to himself, but Enraged Orc wouldn't be able to trigger another attack. I guess if the Rockgrinder will boost his attack in the next round, he would definitely kill off the Ramshackle track, and Enraged Orc will need to again strike for 0. So then there will be so many tokens placed, they will just eat that Enraged Orc alive. I guess retreating the Warlord here would be a good option, but do not forget about tricks like Brutal Canning. You know, our 2 shields have 4 resources here. It will be very dangerous for the Tyranid player to keep the damage on that Rockgrinder too high. I will boost his HP right now. However, he have only 2 resources really, so he cannot boost his attack. So there is no way we will see the Ramshackle track killed in one blow, and this could decide. So let's see. The first action will be for Filip to add, and he decides to add 2 markers with the HP to Goliath. So he is thinking about that the Ramshackle track could really strike that unit straight away, and yeah, I didn't really see him paying for that, so let's wait. First he decides to deal 2 damage to the unit, but he really cannot use it for the Nazdreg. He needs to target the army units. So yeah, so that Blazing Zone drop can only kill the Rogue Trader. He will be able to flip that card around, but I don't think he will have 2 resources, as he didn't really pay that 1 resource for the Imgrove Factory effect yet. And both players seems to do not see this again. And now the copy of Overrun have been played for 2 resources. I mean, this is gonna go very bad. I guess, should I interrupt here again? He's deciding to just to exhaust the enemy unit, not the sacrifice to route it. No, he did sacrifice, so Ramshackle Track needs to be routed. That's okay. But I guess this 2 HP marker should be cancelled in that case, as the Tyranid player have no more resources. Oh no, so it's my mistake. He placed 2 markers there because of the regeneration, just to mark increased HP. So my mistake. Okay, let's go. Warlord decides to retreat. Funny enough, the Enraged Orc have 0 attack, so he didn't really need to do that. But I guess he didn't want him to strike for 2. That's why he made this move. Now Enraged Orc wastes his attack into the air. So all the units could really now ready, and I guess the next attack will be made with Termagant token. So an Enraged Orc will only gain 1 damage, and then all the units could really eat alive the remaining HP. So no surprise, the Tyranids will stay, and I guess the 2 shields will realize this is not the ground to hold. It will be best if he will retreat to HQ, and that's what he does. So yeah. And ability of the planet will allow now to move 1 damage from a unit onto another unit, and if that unit will be killed, then the player will gain 1 resource. Now, what could be killed here is the Rogue Trader itself, I think. But he decides to move the 1 damage from Warlord to Warlord. So Nazdreg will be sitting on 6 damage. Okay, and I guess he do that to help that Zone Drop and the Reaper Swarm on planet number 4 to try and win that battle and keep the infestation token alive to gain those resources. So really smart play, and let's see how that battle on the last planet will go now. If the Nazdreg have enough shields to hold on and to fight them off, or he will retreat. We'll find out in a second. He exhausted. He's thinking of it, but well, I guess it would take at least 3 attacks or 4 attacks if any shields on the Tyranid side. So that's way too many. I guess he don't have so much, and now he decides to trigger the support as well to deal with damage on the Ramshackle Track. So the Ramshackle Track have 2 damages right now, dangerously low for the next round. And as a Tyranid player wins the battle on planet number 4, he decides to do not trigger, which is kind of weird. I would like to see to trigger the ability of planet number 3 and just to kill that Rogue Trader, and then No, it's the resolve. That's why. Okay, so am I right or not? Is a Nectavus 6, so that planet only allows you to resolve the resolve the command straggle with switching. So yeah, Tyranids player, indeed he cannot really resolve this time. So yeah, we go down to next round, which is going to be round number 5. And another copy of Contaminated Convoys being played now, so more infestations and more tokens coming into play. I guess 2 shields with 8 resources and 13 cards will need to decide where he would like to deploy his units now. And Tyranids players have 2 red icons. So planet number 2 is his victory condition. He has quite a strong build-up on planet number 1, and I don't think 2 shields should be placing any units over there. If so, it will be the red icon to be gained. He needed, however, the 3rd blue icon for his own victory condition, and I'm thinking what's in his mind right now. So if he will decide to over deploy planet number 2, he will leave the first planet unresolved, and the enemy, the opponent could really just go for the last planet after this battle and avoid the bunker he will try to build on planet number 2. So yeah, as you see, this clicking bombing get rid of the digestion pool, and another digestion pool was replaced straight after that. So that really do match. 2 shields, nice surprise. So the next deployment will be erupting aberrants, and they will go for planet number 2. Tyranids player clearly thinking about his victory condition, and as the Nazdreg will notice, this will all need to be resolved there. There is no chance it could go the other way around. He could kind of try to stall and try to Filip to overcommit on that planet and then go for planet number 1 to try to take it back and resolve over there if all the units have been deployed on planet number 2. But somehow he will need to have enough moves to keep him just deploying those units. However, there's only 1 resource left, so he cannot really deploy anything else. So I guess there's no point of doing that. Shoot 'em up being deployed on planet number 1. Interesting choice. I think in this scenario it will be very difficult for him to survive here. All those strikes, there's not really much firepower on planet number 2. It's kind of the same. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, it's the same on both planets. So okay, card being attached to that shoot 'em up. Tyranids player seems to do not being distracted by this placement, and he does attach the ingrow factor to his unit on planet number 2. So he may be thinking that's the decoy there. And Nazdreg flash kits have been deployed on planet number 1 as well. So it may not be a decoy at all. It may be a full force commitment, and it looks like the Nazdreg will try to take over the planet number 1, and both players are ready. The planet number 1 haven't been infested from the convoys event, and there should be 2 more tokens as well because of that event, so that have been missed. I wonder if they will realize that. This infestation token on that planet could really decide about that battle as well, as the blazing zone drop could really trigger the effect and kill potentially the ramshackle track straight away. Let's see. Does the Nazdreg's gonna go for planet number 1? And is the Tyranid Warlord will protect it if he were able to actually protect it from all this incoming horde. There is 2 enraged orcs, one which is boosted with the cyborg body, and there's a battle wagon, so even if all those strikes they will go, some of that will go into the orc advantage. So it may be interesting battle. The Tyranid player have no resources left. However, this ramshackle track is very powerful. I don't see really how the orcs could win this here, but maybe there is a trick which I don't see. But however, with the 0 resources left in the hand, many cards but no cash to be able to play them, I don't really see how he could turn this over. So decide to commit. Nazdreg goes indeed for planet number 1. The Tyranid Warlord goes for planet number 2, and the Blazing Zone Drop goes for planet number 1 as well. So he will try to deal the damage from that synapse. However, he forgot about infestation token, so I hope he will trigger it now. Four markers have been removed from Ramshackle track, and no, he just discards the effect without even noticing that there is no infestation token on a planet, and forgetting about another 2 Termagant tokens. So, okay. What's this Venom Trop doing here? Okay. It's the reveal effect of the planet from the force commitment of planet number 2. And the commitment of planet number 1 allows the Nazdreg to add the resource. And now it goes for the command struggle. It's only 2 cards for 2 shields. And 3 resources and 3 cards for the Tyranid player, so quite a lot again. Now with those 3 resources he can boost that Rockgrinder and make it really count. Wonder if he will try to kill off that cyborg bodied enraged orc, or just eliminate all of those smaller units and keep the heavy strike for the next round. I think the most dangerous one, it's obviously Flash Gates with 2 strikes, but he decides to trigger first the zone drop with 1 damage onto that shoot MOBA. So obviously shields being considered, as this shoot mob have a face down card attached to itself, it could potentially mean that the signature unit will jump out from this as effect. The orc units will need to target that unit instead of killing the Termagant tokens, for example, but shoot 'em up disappears, and indeed we see the copy of Genestealer hybrids being played, and he will pay for them 2 resources, and now those hybrids, they will need to be targeted as defender, so both Nazdreg and Flashgates will need to spare their attacks and target this unit. So Termagant tokens could really do some damage here. Flash kits won't be able to eliminate them. So yeah, interesting battle. I don't really see how this will work for the Orc player unless there's any tricky actions. Filip asked for more actions. Possibly he want to trigger his support right now to kill the ramshackle track, which he do indeed. And I wonder if there was no shields used before, if he have any shields now. Now with 11 cards, it's more likely that there are some shields in his hand, and indeed he does have Death Serves the Emperor. So no, he didn't use it as a shield. He actually discards the ramshackle track to gain 5 resources. So that's the way he plays, and that's the way he gains the resources for the tricks, which we'll definitely see some now. So there was plan of action in his play, and indeed here is a first copy of Brutal Cunning being played for 2 resources. And he, okay, wait a second, okay, this copy of hybrids have been discarded, but does not have any effect on the play as there's only 1 resource left. Now the Nazdreg moves 2 damage from Nazdreg to Genester hybrids. So yeah, one of the copies of the hybrids receiving a damage now. I don't really think it have such an effect as it should, as there are 2 copies in play, one from the previous round, one recently faced up. So both of those units will need to be obliterated before anything else goes down on that Rockgrinder. So no, he cannot shield it. He asked for the shielding effect, but it's a move, so Brutal Cunning cannot be really prevented here but at any point. Well, let's see if that will have any effects. Still 4 resources into the orc pool. So does he have another 2 Brutal Cunnings there? That would be nice. Artanis decides to trigger the the ingrow factor to add 2 attack, I guess. So it's on 5 attack right now, so potentially you could spawn some termagants. So the first strike's going to go for the Orc player. He decides to hit with the flash kits for 2. That obviously needs to go onto hybrids, and this will happen. In that case, there will be a shield being used, so unfortunately this unit will survive. Now it's the Tyranid's turn, so 5 attack could potentially kill off the Nazdreg or the flash kits itself, but I think the first attack will be with the hybrids being risked. No, he tapped the Termagant token, or he took it back. I think he realized now that the hybrids will die very soon, so he could really preserve the attack and still use that unit somehow, hitting the first possible unit. So let's see what's going to be his first target. Now I don't really think he will target the flash kits here. No, he attacks with the Rockgrinder, and he made to kill Gits, or he made to kill the Snakebite attack. No, he's targeting the flash kits. So are there any 2 shoulder cards left in the Orc hand? Because only this could really save him and leave the 3 damage on the Gits. In order to make it ready, the Orc player will need to have another 1 shielding card to be able to strike again from the signature unit ability, but no, unfortunately it's been discarded, so there is no hope for anything. Now another 4 tokens being generated from that Rockgrinder effect, so it makes in total 7 Termagant tokens now, it's absolutely bad. Nazdreg will try to finish off that copy of hybrids, and if there is a free shielding card actually in hand, so that will be heartbreaking news. So many attacks being left. 2 from hybrids, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 attacks. So possibly he could try to killing off the smaller units and just leave the enraged orcs in the end. But he need to count it right to make sure at least one of them will die. But he starts from the snakebite attack, which will go first down, and well, okay, he's considering shielding, so there are some still one shielded card in his hands, but not really that will not really save the snakebite attack anyway. As you can imagine, there's so many one single attacks following that one. It's not really worth considering. So now hybrids, they will start from, well, yeah, of course, they will start damaging the Nazdreg to try to finish him off. So that's a 6 damage. I guess one of the tokens, the Termagants, will bloody him now. So yeah, the next attack will go onto Nazdreg as well, and then possibly what we will see is the well, actually the Termagants, they can easily start targeting the enraged orc, as he will need to hit the hybrids, so not really much the orc player can do here. To kill the 2 copies of hybrids, he will need to use the battle wagon and the wounded enraged orc. So then the 3rd enraged orc will be kept without the damage. Okay, well, let's resolve it. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4, 5, 6. That's a lot of attacks, really. And yeah, enraged orc dies, so now one of the damage will go on the battle wagon. Yep. I don't really see even the battle wagon won't be able to change the course of the game. I think it's a GG already, as there is a bloodied Nazdreg and the rogue trader behind. There is not really much they can do. Now, what possibly could happen here is the Rockgrinder could kill that battle wagon, spawn another 3 tokens, as you cannot do really with 4. That will obviously bring 4 snotlings in play, but with such an amount of tokens and any other units like hybrids, there is no chance absolutely for orc player to turn this around. Both players made some small mistakes. Definitely the Tyranid player made more of them, especially with the synapse, which haven't been really used in this game. I'm disappointed about that. Also missing some effects from the events and infestation, and also the signature support. However, he wins this game anyway, as the new build-up it works really well. He gains some command advantage in the end, and that Imgrul factor build on the Rockgrinder allows him to win the game. I think 2 Shields did anything he could, really. Commitment, maybe the commitment game could be changed a little bit, but he did all he could. I mean, he was even in 3rd play to give out the rogue trader, he noticed a few things like the missing tokens from Tyranid player, so he actually pointed some of the mistakes in his advantage to his opponent, which is really nice to see. I think the new Tyranid Warlord works really well, and it's so popular in this tournament, and the Rockgrinder is absolutely awesome. there must be some limitations to be overthinked again on this unit as being built with those all attachments. It's really imposes serious danger with abilities it have, and any hive mind builds, adding any stats to termagants in that assist of the Rockgrinder could be potentially so dangerous, and Tyranids could gain so much force. I know this race have been really low in the leaderboard. It's been kind of seen as one of the weakest ones, but I think now it's being really on top, and it shows especially in how many players are now playing the Magus Harried Warlord, that it's really been already noticed among the community. Let's hope we will see the next video with Magus Harried being defeated by one of the other warlords. I would really like to see that. However, this game, it goes into the Tyranid account. Filip Sztal gaining the ground here, adding the point to Shields, Robert J.Shields, still without the win, so that's unfortunately second loss for him. It will be hard to recover. Thank you for watching the game, and I will try to again to resolve that problem with the hand's visibility next time. So whenever I will comment the game from any other players, I will try to have an inside view, and that will possibly allow me to make it a little bit more exciting as it was now. I hope you did enjoy the game anyway, and hopefully I will be able to record another video very soon. For today I thank you, and I already kind of mentioned that the last time. I really appreciate for all your comments, and feel free to add any more under this video. Thanks a lot again, and looking forward to the third round. See you guys around.